Okay, hi and welcome to another episode on the Butcher's Blog. Today we take this hindquarter apart. That is a hindquarter from a Hereford steer and has been aged for 3 weeks, and that's why it's a bit darker color than you usually see. You also see it's yellow fat, that means it's grass fed, but as you can see, even grass-fed beef can have a good fat structure. So in this video we're going to explain exactly how we take a hindquarter apart and how we cut it into retail cuts, and you can follow me on the whole process. It's going to probably be 2 or 3 episodes, so check back whenever they are posted. They will be posted episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 and so forth. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, we are ready to cut that apart, and what I'm first going to do, I trim a little bit of this excess fat off here and then cut along the seam here, around here, down here, and the ribs with the saw. So here we go. Take that fat off here, because that's way too much fat, but that's good for the meat, because it will be nicely marbled. And take that dried up edge with it, because during aging that all dries up, so the garbage right there, like so. Garbage. And now we're ready to take that off. Everything on a beef is connected with seams, so you can't see it under the fat, but there's a seam going along here and along here, and so that's what we follow now. So just take a razor sharp knife. You see here the seam opens up, and we cut along here. And just keep going down this way. I always prefer to work with a hook. It's much easier than holding on with your hand, and it's safer. The further you can get the hands away from a sharp knife, the better. So not just in a straight line cut down.
Maybe it should be on the other side.
Take the saw. Again, cut down on the ribs in a straight line. There we are. Okay.
Voila.
Alright, and here is on the table ready to be processed further into retail cuts. We first tear this membrane out, and then under here several cuts hide. Here, under here you can see it's the flank steak. That's a very nice cut. Then hidden under here is the sirloin flap steak that we take out too, and then the rest of the rib meat and whatever meat we can salvage here is going to be for ground beef or sausages. Alright, let's get started. The membrane here is very tough, so it can be hooked down here and pulled down.
I'm going around you. Keep going.
And when we loosen it up, we just take it and pull it all down. By a beef that is aged for so long, it's a little bit tougher than a beef that's not aged as long, and so sometimes we have to take a knife to help along a bit and just tear it off. And as soon as we come to the meat here, we cut it off, because the membrane is finished here and the new membrane starts from here. So we take that hook again, hook it in the membrane up here. And like I said, sometimes they come easy, especially on a beef that's not aged for so long, but when they're aged for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it all dries up and gets a little bit tough, but it's coming. Just keep peeling it off like that, because that's all inedible stuff we don't want. And it's better to take it off now than later, Alright, now we take the flank steak out. Same thing, you just get your finger under here or make a bit an incision with the knife. And now you just peel it out. Peel it out, like so. Cut through the tenon and peel it off. And here it is. Trim it a bit, like so, not too much. Just a little bit the worst fat and the dried up bits. Got it. And there it is. That's the flank steak. That's a very beautiful cut. At home you dice it a bit here and slow cook it in the oven. Beautiful meat. Next we take off this part here. That's just sausage meat, and it frees up the ribs because later we're going to cut these ribs out there. So then we're done. Again, everything just run along the seam here. Then peel it off the rib bone here. That's going as is in the trim for ground beef and sausages. And now we can take the ribs out. The first rib I don't bother because it's all dried out, so there's nothing to be salvaged from that. Just take it off like this. There's a little bit nice meat in here that we can salvage. There you go. The rest is all just dried up, so no need to salvage that. Okay, now we cut on either side of the rib. The rib here, under the rib, lift it up and just pull along. Like so. Like so. And it's clean, garbage. The next. This one has 3 ribs, because that's how it came. I personally cut the last rib when I quarter a beef, not 3 ribs. But that's how this one came, so we have 3 ribs here. But like I said, if I slaughter them and quarter them, I quarter them by the last rib on the hind quarter. That goes in the trim. Trim is for ground beef and sausages.
Thank you.
Alright, now we have here, take the sirloin flap steak out. Like so, there it is. Now we could trim that a bit if we want, but and then that's like similar to a flap steak, or flank steak, sorry, and you bake it in the oven, slow temperature. But I want trim so I can make sausages and ground beef, so that goes into the, a little bit fat is good on it. I look for medium. Alright, so here we are. Most of the meat is out, but there is still some meat to be salvaged here, so that's what I'm going to do, and then move on to the next one. So here is a little bit meat to be salvaged, like so. That just peels off like this. That also goes into the trim. The rest basically is fat. There is a little bit here. That's it. There is this. All of here is now fat. Goes into the trim, into the garbage. Oh, and then here we have a bit too. This is all dried up from dry aging the beef, so no, there's not much use for that. That's the meat tastes a lot better when it's dry aged, but you have a little bit more waste. But the quality of the meat you get from dry aging makes up for the loss. And if you have to sell it in the store, that's why dry aged meat is more expensive than your average grocery store pre-packed meat that comes from a meat factory. They don't age it, they hang it for 3-4 days and then it's processed. So there we go. Okay, next we're going to take out the hip and the loin section. And some people they do first take the tenderloin out and then cut here. I don't do that anymore. I used to. I cut now straight through here. And here is a joint in here, and I want to be right under the joint. There's this liquid in the joint liquid. And if I would cut right through the joint, that all would run over the meat, which just adds to more cleaning up. So right about here, the tenderloin finishes here, so I cut here in a straight line through down to the bone, and then all the way around here, all the way here, down to the bone, and around the other side in a straight line to about here, where the tailbone finishes. Oh, right there. Take my saw. And now we cut through the pelvic bone. Right here. Oh, I hold here with the hook. Probably from the other side it would be a little bit easier. Till we're through the main bone. I always think of right-handers, but then want to show you the right-handed way instead of the left-handed way, but I'm a left-hander. Then here we have some fat, so I stick the hook right in here not to damage the muscle underneath. Alright, now we take out the tenderloin. Tenderloin runs, you can see here, runs along here and all the way down here, and everybody knows what a tenderloin is. It's the most expensive cut on a beef. So there's the bone here, so we run the tip of our knife along the bone, and then along here, a wiggly line, and like this. Here is the bone. We cut, always work with the tip of the knife and just follow the bone, feel the bone under the knife and just follow the contours of the bone. See that wiggly line here? Just like that. And now there's more bones running this way. There's bones running back, bones running that way. If you look at the spinal column, it's almost like a cross, and they're called the feather bones. So we take a knife, a semi-flexible knife is good for that, like this Victory knife, and just scrape it along the feather bones. So again, you don't want to go between them, you want to run right along them, like so. I'm going to do that slow so you can follow.
I'm going the other side. I can't see you. Keep going.
So you can follow. Just see, here is that bone here. Here is, and here. They're also little blades. So you just with the tip of the knife, you feel the bone, you can hear it here, and run it along. And again here, go under, run it along. Go along, run it along, and cut the fat as you go along here. Probably should have trimmed that fat a little bit better out, but it's working well, like so. Just, of course, in the real life that goes much quicker, but I'm wanting you to see this in slow motion. so you get an understanding how things work. And now here we're on the hip bone. Again, so I just follow with the tip of the knife along the hip bone here. See, then I come to this seam and follow that seam. And there we are. Straight cut through here. And there is your tenderloin. We're going to trim that up. The fat comes off, the silver skin comes off, and then we're going to cut steaks from it.